mental, outcome, and strategy. Right? It's very important your mental state when you practice. What your self-talk. What are you telling yourself? Like, this is too hard, I'm never gonna get it. Or are you telling yourself, okay, I'm a little better than yesterday, I'm improving. Or you're thinking about your girlfriend, emails to send, or what you're gonna do tonight. That all affects your practice. So the more focused you are on your practice, the better you will be. The second pillar is the outcome, right? What's your outcome? It's impossible for you to play, for example, bossa nova, and if you're practicing double bass, right? So what's your short-term goals? What's your long-term goals? Write it down, date it. The third one is the strategy. What strategies are you using to achieve what you want? What are the strategies that you used in the past that worked for you, right? So research the drummers, like what have been working for them. Maybe that works for you. You should try it. Going back to the program, it's a very similar approach to the military when they have the training course where you have to jump walls, going through the mud, climbing things. Is the same thing applied to drums. So the program works in rounds of minutes, right? So you develop your muscle memory to play whatever pattern you're working for. I do a lot of ambidexterity, which is your ability to play with your left hand, everything that you play with your right. It's very important for anything you do, you start slow. That's the main concept of anything you do, muscle memory, right? If you guys remember when you were 2 or 3 years old, how difficult it was to bring a spoon to your mouth. Now it becomes automatic. Start slow. Like our body needs 1,500 to 10,000 movements for it to assimilate. So basically you're transforming body movements into reflex. So starting slow is the key. A lot of people talk about quantity versus quality, like how long do you practice. Going back to the 3 pillars, if you have the 3 aligned, you have a much more productive practice. But for me, I think the key for it is not quantity and it's not quality. For me, it's the quality of your quantity, right? So if you practice focused for 1 hour, you achieve far better results than if you sit down for 4 hours thinking about things to do and you're not focused on anything. Because your brain, you have to remember, you have to put whatever you're playing with your hands and feet into your brain, so that becomes automatic. So what happens with most people, you try an exercise 10, 20 times and you got it right 1, twice maybe. From the standpoint of your brain, what did happen? You play 90%, you taught your brain how not to play. And 10% was maybe, your brain has a little idea of this movement. So when you leave practice, the feeling that you're feeling, I think it's right, it sounds like a paradox, but the feeling that you're feeling with yourself, you're going to hold that feeling for, let's say you practice for 2 hours. You're going to hold that feeling for 22 hours. So that feeling is very important. It's even more important than what you're feeling when you're practicing. So when you leave practice, find a way to be happy with yourself. Find a way to get out of the lab and say, fucking I did. That's very, very important. A couple other things I go through is stretch. Very important, especially if you're playing heavy stuff, a very demanding stuff. Stretch. Videotape yourself. Daily practice. I study a lot of muscle memory. Your brain absorbs much more if you practice, let's say, 45 minutes every day than if you sit on Saturday and practice for 6 hours. Our brain understands by repetition, not exhaustion. So, new moves. When you practice something new, start slow, like I said, and start at the beginning of your practice, when you're fresh. If you try to start something new at the end of your practice, chances are more likely you're tired, you have fatigue in the way, so it gets in the way. When you have intense practice for a half hour, that's the approximately 30 to 35 minutes. You need to take a break to avoid fatigue. If you're practicing double bass, blast beats and stuff like that, go for a water, get some fresh air, drink a coffee, go back to it. That way you can study for maybe increments of 5 or 6, 30 minutes increments. Two things at once. When you're trying to learn new things and you have a couple of things, make sure they are distinct between each other. That way your brain can absorb much more information. Right? Maybe try something new with your hands and something new with your feet. Like I said, the program is based on ambidexterity, so you practice with your left hand. A lot of people say, when you practice something, start with your weak hand. I tell you, this is wrong, right? Start always with your stronger hand, because that will create neural paths on your brain. So when you start with your left, your brain will have some sort of like handle. It will be easier for your brain to assimilate the same pattern, starting with your left hand, than if you start with your left hand right away. I talk about keep focus. During practice, are you thinking or are you having thoughts? There's a big difference. If I tell you guys, okay, if today is 2 days after Friday, what day was 5 days ago? Then you're thinking. Other than that, it's just your body having thoughts, right? We have approximately 45 to 60,000 thoughts every day. I talk about a lot of questions, right? How you understand things is all about question and answering. Questions shape our thinking process. So what kind of questions are you thinking yourself? Why am I always screwing this up? Why I can never get this right? Ask and you shall receive. So if you change the question, for some example, how can I get this right? Or what did I do in the past that worked for me? So the quality of the questions you asking yourself will determine the results you're going to have. You have to believe in you that it's possible. A lot of people go to the mirror and say, I'm going to be the greatest drummer in the world. But there's a voice inside that say, who you're kidding, right? I'll tell you, there's a simple exercise for this. To build strength on your belief system. For example, let's say you're going to 7-Eleven. Tell yourself, I'm going to go to 7-Eleven. And when you're going there, do your thing. When you come back, try to consciously look for the feeling of happiness for doing something that you told yourself to do. Because your brain does not distinguish between going to 7-Eleven or if you say, I'm going to get the record deal. For your brain, it's just say, okay, he told he was going to go to 7-Eleven. He did. So he's telling he's going to get a record deal. So your brain will try to associate everything that you do. So that's a very important aspect on practice. Very simple, but the game changes a lot when you're playing this for over 1 minute. Find me on Facebook and send me feedback. I want to hear. But it worked with everybody. So the first one, for example, if you play 4 strokes in each hand, then you play 8 strokes with each hand, and then you beat up speed. Then you do 12 strokes. On the program I have a whole thing. I'll talk to you guys after we finish this. We'll have some time to hang. Same thing with your feet. And like I say, the program, what determines if you are beginner, intermediate, or advanced is the BPMs. If it's too easy, bump up the BPMs. To build up endurance, go more than a minute. Go 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and I guarantee it, you guys will see the impact of this. And you will notice, like I say, it's like a military. Those exercises are not things you're gonna, for example, play a whole song on this. But when that song comes, that 10 seconds blast beat, you're gonna get precise and very clear notes. So cool, that's it. Now I wanna bring Ed back.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks, Gus. Thanks, man. This program is really amazing, so you guys really should check it out.